Good morning, everybody. All right. How's everybody doing this morning? I am getting ready to kick off some more writing. Goodness. I have not been sleeping enough, which is a absolute disaster. Because then it makes me tired and it makes me not want to write. But then I end up getting really distracted and frustrated. And then that makes me not want to sleep. And so it just turns into like a hyper destructive cycle where I'm constantly just like frustrated with myself and then not doing anything constructive about it. All right. Oh, what's up, Terrence? How are you doing? My Thanksgiving was wonderful. My in-laws and my wife's family came and hung out, and that was fantastic. I had a great time. But it also kind of derailed me. And then I was doing really well at the beginning of this week, and then I just completely fell off the wagon. Yesterday was kind of miserable. And now I'm in the thick of it. Yeah. So I'm editing right now, like in this moment. But I'm going to be... Today's objective is drafting. A whole lot of drafting. So in 10 minutes, we're going to kick off our first sprint. I better put this up, actually. And I need to clear this. All right. So right now I'm going through and doing a little bit of editing just to make sure that I'm sort of on track, that I'm keeping up with everything. And then it will be time to draft again. Yeah, so Terrence, to answer your question more fully, the goal today is just write as much as I can. I have a pretty clear day. My goal is to get my goal is sorry. I am highly distractible today. Just so everybody knows. I don't know that I've been this distractible in a while, but it's okay. The goal today is just to write as much as possible. I have a tremendous number of or I have a pretty clear schedule. There's nothing really going on today, and so I'm excited. Let's see here. All right, so in 7 minutes, we're going to kick off our first sprint. I do need to adjust my board because I have not been keeping up with my tracking, and I need to track my sprints. Oof. So I got a massage yesterday, which was great, but the result is that I'm terribly sore right now. My neck specifically is very sore. Okay. So I'm clearing the whole board. We're going to write our to-do for today. We have about 5 minutes until we kick off our first sprint, everybody. So all I'm using the board for right now is tracking my word counts. Though I need to find a different system for that. But then I also use it. I just mark down how many sprints I've done to help myself keep track, because otherwise I would just completely lose sight of what I'm actually doing. So, I need to go on Twitch. And I need to change my things. Boom, profile picture updated. Looking good. Cool. It's done. All right, 2 minutes and we're gonna kick this off. All right. Getting ready to kick off here. I will be right back and we'll get started. I got on mute first. It is time for our first sprint. Let's get to it. Time to get some writing done. From you. time. fork. Furrow. John. Forward to it. At the 4. Filled with going. The somehow, but long. Woo woo. All right. That is sprint number 1, folks, which is fun. We're going to jump into sprint number 2 here pretty much immediately. David, I'm so glad that you enjoyed Challenger. Awesome. It's exciting to me. I'm assuming you finished it on audio because the ebook isn't out. There's a bit of a kerfuffle with the ebook launch date and the audiobook launch date, and the audiobook launched early, which is weird, but it's okay. Glad you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm excited to write the next Tower book. That'll be fun. But first, I got to finish this one. I got to get through. So we're going to jump right into our next sprint. But before that, I should actually figure out how I did on that sprint. All right, let's see how we did. Oh, not too bad. Pretty good. All right, so we're going to kick off another sprint. How's everybody else's sprints going? Were you able to get some writing in? All right, I'm going to sit down and we're going to kick off our next sprint. Feet long. All right, let's get to it. 30 minutes on the clock. Time to go. this. I items. Young day. John. Entirely. to the market. Of the market. Back to woo-wee. That is sprint number 2. And my exhaustion is catching up with me, folks. All right. I think I need to go get some more coffee. Maybe run up and down the stairs a few times. So with that in mind, I'm gonna run up and grab coffee. But we have 2 sprints done. We're gonna be kicking off another sprint shortly. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it, despite the fact that I'm so toasted. All right, time to go and get a cup of coffee, and then we will be back to it. All right, I'll be back just a sec. All right, I got my coffee. Awesome. So, all right. So, you know, as I got my coffee, I started thinking. And it struck me that... Good morning, Joseph. How are you? Oh man, wow. Iron Tyrant broke 900 ratings on Amazon. Pretty exciting. Pretty really exciting. I feel like this one's doing well. Man, you know, it's always interesting to see what people like. Always interesting to see what people like. But yeah, anyway. All right. I'm really distracted today. Really very distracted. Yeah, so the book came out just over a month ago, and we hit 900 reviews. So I'm pretty excited. It's pretty good. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that everybody feels better soon. Family sicknesses is no fun. So, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. And then, I'm just getting very distracted. We're going to be kicking off our next sprint here pretty soon. I'm trying to decide whether I just keep drafting and sort of keep pushing ahead, or whether I swap into a bit of plotting. to try and really nail down where it is that I'm going and what it is that I'm trying to do. I think I might need to plot because I'm not feeling super excited about sort of what I have in mind for the rest of this book. And it feels like there's been this big pacing shift, and I want to make sure that I'm nailing that correctly. I am trying to sort of wind down a little bit rather than making everything instead of my normal like hype at the end of a book or like, you know, hook. I'm trying to wind down. And I want to make sure that it's good, but I don't want it to be boring, right? So I'm trying to decide what it is that I actually do. Oh, sweet, Terrence. Yeah, there's a great Audible sale. It's legitimately crazy. It's pretty wild, but. Okay, I am going to switch into plotting, which means that what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to process this stuff while I do my plotting. So give me 1 second. Let's get this chopped up. So I can fix it, and then we're going to plot, and I'm going to nail down how I want the end of this book to go so that I don't end up All right, let's kick off our next sprint, folks. This is going to be sprint number 3 for this morning. This is going to slow down my drafting a little bit, but that's okay. I have all day to write, and I'm going to get as much done as I can. But it's more important that I nail the end of this book than that I go fast. So let's go ahead and get into sprint number 3. Let's do it. All right. Well, that's it for sprint number 3, and I'm definitely making progress here, figuring out what it is that I'm going to do at the end of this book. There was something that felt just off about it, and I think I've figured out what it is. I'm making good progress in understanding how to shift things. So my camera keeps like switching the white balance. It's really annoying me. But yeah, I feel like I'm making good progress. Okay, so David, if you're still here, thank you for your patience. If you have a question about Thorn, I'm happy to talk about it. Let me know if you're interested in spoilers or not. I assume that if you have a question, you're going to be fine with spoilers, but I want to make sure before I just go blabbing all the things. All right. So the question is, so what I was going to ask is how you came up with Thorn as a character and what direction you wanted to take with him and his story. I'm trying to write my own story. I want to understand how to write such a lovable character. Okay, so this is one of my favorite subjects. Let's talk about characters. First of all, how do you build good characters? How do you choose an idea that is going to work? And then how do you build a character that people absolutely love? And the truth is that I'm going to turn the music off for a second. Okay, so let's answer this question, right? How did I come up with Thorn as a character, the protagonist of the Titan series and the Tower series, and then how did I write him into such a lovable character? The answer to that is both specific and general. The specific answer is that Thorn himself came around because I just had this really intense curiosity. I had been doing some research. So my background is in application development. I was a programmer, and I had been doing some research and reading. I'd been reading some books, and I had been doing research on something and came across this true or real life figure, Robert Wadlow, who was Guinness Book of World Records tallest man. So at 8 foot 11 inches, Robert Wadlow only lived to be about 21 or 22, but he was absolutely massive. And I saw a picture of him standing next to his dad, and his dad, who was 6 foot, looked to be half as tall, looked to just be half the height. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, wow, I wonder what he would do if he went into a video game, like a full immersion virtual reality video game. Where that thought came from, I have no idea. I think it was because at the time I was reading other VR books. And so I'd been thinking about like games where you take your own body into the game. And I started thinking about that. I started thinking, how would an algorithm even handle somebody who is that far outside of the norm? Somebody who was just completely, on the outer edge of what was even possible. And so I thought to myself, well, what if I had a character who was that big, right? Well, there are a couple of really important things. First, the way a game handles physics is different from actual physics, right? And game design tells us that when somebody goes into a game, they're going to, a lot of the minor annoyances about life will be removed, right? Because it's not supposed to be exactly like real life, because that would suck, because real life sometimes sucks. Instead, it's like an optimized version of real life. The problem is that when you have somebody at that size, their mass increases exponentially as their surface area increases, right? So the bigger the person, like if you just take a regular person and you scale them up, they get absurdly strong and absurdly heavy and absurdly tough, right? And so as I started working through, just, idly working through the math on that, I thought to myself, wow, okay, here is an interesting character. Here is someone who, no matter what situation you throw him into, he is going to force the world to react in unexpected ways. And so that brings us to what I think one of the keys is for building really good characters. And that is people who force the world around them to change. They force everything around them to be different just by their very presence or their very being. They make the world react to them. They're not just reacting to the world, right? And the reason that's really important is because it automatically gives the character agency. Everything they do has impact. One of the real challenges with characters is that is finding ways to give them agency that doesn't feel contrived. And by creating a character who is so distinct or whose existence is impactful, you sort of get to shortcut that process. Now, let's talk about lovable though, because there's something really attractive about Thorn. There's something about Thorn who, this big giant guy who could just go around crushing people, but he doesn't. He could go around enforcing his will, but he doesn't. It would be easy for him to just sort of bully his way through and force everybody to do what he wants, but he doesn't, right? I gave him every conceivable advantage, right? He's smart. He is massive. He's fast and strong. His size does not impede him. It's a boon, right? He is unbelievably tough. His will is absolute. And he has all the resources anybody could ever want, right? He has all of these things. He is, in a sense, the perfect person. But rather than just say, okay, cool, he's got all the things, now let's just watch him win, instead, we add a bit of we add some naive characteristics, right? We add some flaws that are not actually flaws. And this is an important distinction, right? If Thorn was a serial liar, right? If he just lied a lot and that was his flaw, nobody would like him. If he got really angry and just destroyed everything around him every once in a while, people wouldn't like him. If he was mean, people wouldn't like him. If he was manipulative, people wouldn't like him. Instead, we give him a flaw that is designed to highlight his goodness rather than his, what's bad about him. The intent is not to make Thorn perfect, right? But the intent is to make him aspirational. So there has been a trend in the last, probably through the 80s and into the 90s, to create, and even into the 2000s, to create characters who have these like intensely negative traits, who are anti-heroes, right? And the reason we created anti-heroes is because society was largely peaceful. I mean, obviously, early 80s, through the 90s, there was still a lot of chaos in the world. But people really felt like that was all going away. People felt like we had sort of arrived. And society was largely peaceful and prosperous. And at least, in the US, everything is booming, right? And as a result, people want complex characters who show human foibles. That's changing. In the last, since 2000, you might even say since 2001, the world has gotten a lot harder. It's gotten a lot rougher. There have been these sort of catastrophes, over and over and over again. And people's view of the world is not that it is this bright, positive, place where we're going to all thrive together. No, things have gotten a lot harder. Things seem to be more cutthroat. People seem to be engaging with the world in a more cynical way. And so the characters that they want are more aspirational. They're simpler, right? They are characters who we can look up to, who we can wish our life was like. People don't want catharsis as much anymore. People just want genuine goodness. And that is, I think, the key to Thorn's character. With all of the other stuff going on, Thorn is just genuinely kind. He's genuinely good. He always strives for the best, not just for himself, but for everybody around him. He's willing to sacrifice. He's willing to learn and improve, but it's for the sake of the people around him, not just so that he can amass, power for himself. And I think that is sort of the key, right? That's the key to his specific character. Now, not all characters can be like that, right? Thorn is a very specific character in a very specific story that is engineered to work in the way it does. But as you're thinking about your characters, I think one of the things that you can do to try and mirror some of this is pick traits that you really, really appreciate in other people. Pick traits that if you saw someone who embodied them, heart and soul, you'd say, I want to be like that person. Pick those traits and then give those traits to your main character. And as you do that, I think that you're going to find that the characters you come up with are really attractive. They're really lovable. So we did get another question here as part of this. Do you think the anti-heroes, do I think that anti-heroes come from the noir genre? So anti-heroes really emerged as a result, in my opinion, of the Roaring Twenties. Again, a period post-World War I when everybody had decided that there were going to be no more wars, right? It was called the Great War because there were supposed to be no more wars afterward. And there was this huge boom and this huge time of prosperity. And as a result, when you read the pulp novels, all of a sudden the heroes are no longer like Tarzan, right? The heroes start to get more complex. They start to get gray morally. They start to take on some of these darker character traits. And it's because society at large was at peace and everything was booming. Technology was leaping forward and people had money and everything seemed to be going really, really well. And then you have the Depression, and then you have World War II. And all of a sudden, the characters change again. You start to get Superman, you start to get Captain America, you start to get these characters who are simple and are good, right? And evil and good are very well defined. And then as life continues and you start, and people come back from the Second World War and they once again settle into this time of prosperity, you start to get more complicated characters again. You start to get these anti-heroes and so I don't think that a specific genre created anti-heroes. I think that the genres are born out of the cycles of human desire that exist throughout society. So you might run across this phrase that we are in the fourth turning. There are these cycles of human psychology that happen, that you can map throughout history, that where society shifts from one major desire to another major desire. And we're in one of those shifts right now. And so we're going to be seeing more, simpler stories that allow people to escape, right? Stories that are sort of aspirational. This is one of the reasons things like One Punch Man have done so well. This is one of the reasons that OPMC has just made a huge comeback. This is a reason that Cozy has made a huge surge. People, grimdark epic fantasy is getting less popular, but epic fantasy is becoming more popular. Why? Because epic fantasy at its core is aspirational. The farm boy picks up the magic sword and goes to slay the dragon. It's not complicated. Now, good epic fantasy obviously has a lot to it, but the core of the story is that simple hero's journey, right? And that's what people right now seem to be looking for, and I think that that's going to continue. Who knows? Maybe we'll hit another period of time when life just seems good and people feel like everything is easy. And when that happens, we'll see this shift back into a desire for more complex, more nuanced stories, right? So these things roll in cycles. So anyway, that was a very long answer to your question. I hope that it did answer your question. Let me know if that's, if that works. Or if it did answer your question, let me know if it didn't. But connect, that's exactly right. That's 100% correct. So you hear anti-hero and you think of like Spawn, right? Like that is what I'm talking about, right? You have these everything looks good on the surface. Like the 90s are prosperous. And so what do people want? They want stories about government agents being betrayed and and making deals with devils and all of this stuff. And we're not in that place anymore, right? Now people look at the government and they're like, no, they're actually doing that kind of stuff. Maybe not the deals with devils, who knows? But they're doing that stuff. And so we want clean, stories that can take us away from what we believe reality is. But yeah. Sure. So I have a lot of moments. Okay, so now we have a question that's specific to the Tower series. Thorn, I'm just gonna spoil it. So if you haven't read Challenger yet, Thorn gets to have a conversation with someone and learns more about Earth. Sorry for bumping the mic there. Learns more about Earth and what Earth actually is. So how does it work, and what's the deal with Earth and Earthlings? So the deal is sort of what it stated, and I've talked about this before, that Earth is in the endless worlds. Earth is not a real world. It's a manufactured world. It's essentially a virtual world. So it's the reason it doesn't have mana when every other world in the endless worlds possesses mana is because it only exists in sort of a mental space, right? And it's really just a giant nanite colony. And the Earthlings, the people who exist. And so in that space, there were only two actual real people after Thorn's parents left. Thorn and his aunt, Julia. They're the only two actual real people, right? Everybody else is part of this nanite colony. And that allows them to interact. Well, so essentially it's just a collection of a bunch of souls that exist in this virtual space, and then as they leave there and move into the rest of the endless worlds, their bodies are constructed, which does a couple of things, right? It allows them to interact with any kind of power in the endless worlds, because there are a couple different power sets. So the reason I do the endless worlds with all of my books is because it makes it really easy for me to build my power systems, right? So you have faith, you have mental energy, you have mana, and you have physical force, right? And those are sort of the four primary power systems that exist. And there is a bit of a hierarchy to them, with, raw strength at the bottom, and then mana, and then mental energy, and then faith as the four, which is really just sort of distilled will, and that's sort of the spread, right? And so these nanites are, or these intellects are able to interface with any of the powers, whereas people born in the endless worlds, humans, elves, dwarves, god beasts, all of the other creatures that are born in the endless worlds don't actually have that ability. Okay. So what that means is that anytime a soul is pulled from Earth, anytime an Earthling moves out of Earth and into the endless worlds, they become a force of change, right? And that's sort of what the nanites were supposed to do in the first place. They turned out to be a problem. And so Eve specifically turned out to be a problem. And so that's why she was bound to Thorn, because he becomes the ultimate stabilizing force for her. But the reason that his skin was splitting when he was on Earth is because that mental space, that virtual space, literally could not contain his will and his body, right? And so coming out of it, he is the only person to bring his actual body into the world of Anguril, into the game Nova Terra, which is actually reality. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question there, but that's what's going on with Earth, right? Earth was created as a cage to hold this constantly generating colony of nanites that were, and I use the word nanite just to give some sort of reference for it, but these pure intellects that were being created through the Atlas star. They're there. And Eve, who is the primary intellect and the intellect from which all others were like spawned essentially or born, she had to be bound to Thorn, otherwise catastrophe, because her entire directive is to figure out how to take over everything. So, a few spoilers there, but nothing that will actually spoil what happens in the books. But essentially, the role that Earth plays in the Endless Worlds is a place from which I can grab individuals who are distinct and different and can interact with the world in a different way. All right. Raymond Chandler said that people like noir characters because they could get the thrill of doing something bad, but still be reassured they were the good guys. And that's exactly it, right? When you have these very distinct categories of sort of bad and good, then people just want to be on the good guy side, right? And so you see that in the reflection of like societies around the world versus the Nazis. One side was very genuinely bad and one side was not. And so it became very easy to just be like, cool, if we want the experience of being a good guy who is unique and different, all we have to do is set him up against Nazis. He gets to punch him in the face. We're all good. But when you don't have that threat, when there isn't that bad guy for society to align against, then you start to go, oh, we've got to figure out other ways to get that same feeling of being the good guys, right? Of sacrifice, of all of these positive traits that we want to embody. Well, how do we do that? Well, why don't we take a morally gray situation, like present a morally gray situation, which is what noir is, and then we figure out through it who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, even though we might not know it, at the beginning. And so it's really just another way of doing the same thing or producing the same result, but for a different time. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to answer. Yeah, Connect. Connect says the world sucks. We need optimism. Okay, wait, that's too much. Let's go back to some pessimism. That's pretty much how the cycle goes. Oh, I don't know, Connor. I'm not sure. This will be a video. Like I'll be not only VODing it, but I think I'm gonna chop my answer there, and I'm gonna have that uploaded as a video onto YouTube, so you will be able to see it there. But we were talking about some history and lore from the Endless Worlds, specifically through the Tower series, the Titan series. But yeah. All right. So, happy to answer any other questions you guys have. I love talking about this stuff. I have to do some more plotting. I should be able to do this in one more sprint though. So, at 10 o'clock, we're going to kick off our 4th sprint. Connor, if you have any questions, happy to answer them. I'm going to run and use the bathroom really quick. I'll be right back. And then we'll get our music going again. And we'll be kicking off our sprint at 10. All right, let's get to it. Connect asks, how long did it take you to gain confidence that what you're writing is good? I'm still not confident that what I'm writing is good. I generally doubt that my writing is good all the time. Most of the time I get done with a book and I'm like, oh, wow, this is absolute trash, but I don't have enough time to do anything about it. So, gotta post it, I guess. So that just sort of continues indefinitely. But over time, as you give your writing to people and people say, hey, this isn't bad, or, you know, I like this, that slowly just sort of builds into confidence. But the thing is that you have to be willing to take the, you know, trash talk first. Like, you have to be willing to give your writing to people and accept that it's bad and just understand that it's not going to be great. And that's okay. Like, making bad art is fine. Right? Just because your art isn't good doesn't mean you shouldn't make it. We have this idea that art has to be amazing in order for it to be worth existing. And that's just completely false, right? If you enjoy what you do and you can find other people who enjoy what you do, then just do it. Like, make your stuff, right? Making bad art is I think really important. And I think that everybody should do it. All right, so we are going to jump into our next sprint here, and it's going to be fantastic. Connor asks, how many words do my novels typically end up? And how much time does it take to finish a novel? It takes me anywhere from a week to a month to finish a novel, depending on what's going on in my life. And I write 120,000 words approximately in every novel. Nice, Brandon. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a big step. That's a big step. All right. So, sprint number 4 coming up, folks. Let's go ahead and put 30 minutes on the clock and get to it. All right, folks, that is sprint number 4. We have some more sprints coming right up. I'm realizing that I have to make name lists, because if I don't, these last few chapters are going to take me freaking forever. I have to go back through and I have to comb through and I have to figure out who everybody is and remember all of the people that I need to loop back in, because I'm closing out as I close out this book. And so we're going to run another sprint here. We're going to go ahead and get started right away. Hopefully you guys are getting some work done as well. Our next sprint is coming up now because I want to just hammer this out. So let's get to it. All right, folks. So that is it for sprint number 5. And I think that that's going to be it for today. So, I've started to get a headache. I need to go, I think, eat some food. But I also need to just think about this plot. I rebuilt my whole plot for the end of the book. And I like where it's going. I just need to, I need to finesse it in my mind. And I also need to identify the specific people that I'm going to be pulling in, so I can just sort of roll with it. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to ride my bike. And I'm going to, maybe I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm going to do something else. But I'm going to spend some time just processing what I have. And I'm going to go outside and I'm going to get some fresh air. And it's going to be fantastic. But thank you all for hanging out with me. We will be back tomorrow for some more writing. Hopefully drafting. I'm pretty frustrated that I have not gotten more done in the last 2 days. But it is what it is. Sometimes this is the creative process, is just letting things roll. So we're going to keep at it, though. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me for this stream. And yeah,